Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. For today's video we're going to be making this side drawstring crop top with the long sleeves. Now you know winter is coming up, or it's already winter for where most of my customers are located, which is the US. So I wanted to make some long sleeve patterns for everyone. So I really love this top. It's one of my favorites. As you can see, I'm just dancing in it. Now when you get your PDF pattern, this is just an example. You are going to scroll and you're going to see a little section that says the layout of this pattern. It shows you how your pages should be put together when you stick everything together. And also you are able to print layers, meaning that you can print one size or two or three sizes, however many sizes that you want at a time, or you can just print all the sizes at a time. Now you want to print your pattern at 100% scale or actual size. And also what you want to do is, after printing each page, you are going to snip off the right and the bottom, and you're going to overlap it with the next page to make sure that you are making full circles where there are corner circles and everything is just connecting. Now this is the layout of this specific pattern. Also, you're going to need 4-way stretch fabric, and also you are going to need to remember that there is already a half an inch seam allowance already included in your pattern pieces. For this pattern, I'm also going to be using about 1.3 meters of fabric, which is 1.4 yards. Here are my pattern pieces. Those are my sleeves, and also I am going to have one front piece and one back piece. It is important to note that your back piece is going to have 2 notches while your front piece has only 1 notch at the armhole. This is going to correspond with the notches on your sleeves. You want to make sure that the double notches are matching up with the back and the 1 notch is matching up with the front. I'm also going to go ahead and I am going to have my 4 little straps. Your straps can be as long as you want them to be. My straps are around, I don't know, like 50 centimeters long. You can make yours longer, you can make them shorter. It's all up to you. You can make them as thick as you want. Also, I'm going to have my neck band. There is my neckband over there. Now let's get into making the sewing pattern. It's quite easy and quite simple, guys. We're just going to put our front and back piece right sides together, and we're going to pin at the shoulders, and then we're just going to stitch that. We're going to stitch using our sewing machine. For this part, I'm going to be using a straight stitch. And also when I'm done, I'm going to move it on to my serger, but not now. So I'm just going to stitch this stitch using my straight stitch, cut off the excess threads, and do my other shoulder. Okay guys, I'm done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my front piece with my back piece at the side seams. Now as you can see, my back piece is a little bit shorter than my front. You are going to need to stretch your piece to match up the notches. The back is slightly short. That is because the front has been made with a full bust adjustment to accommodate anyone who is a cup size C and above. So make sure that you are stretching that back piece to fit 100% with the front piece. Please do not forget that. Okay, I'm going to snip off the excess thread, and I'm gonna quickly jump to my serger and just serge. Remember, you don't need to do this part. I'm just doing it because it makes it look very nice and professional. But if you don't have a serger, it's perfectly fine. All you have to do is just do your straight stitches for those parts and cut off the excess seam allowance. So now what I'm doing is, I did not serge my side seams. I'm just going to open them up, and after opening my side seams up, I'm just going to make sure that I press down with an iron. Yes, so I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm just opening up those seams and just pressing them down with an iron. That's because I'm going to be using that to make channeling for my straps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch about a centimeter away from the center seam, from the original seam that we stitched, and I'm just making sure that I am stitching a little channel to pass my strings through. So I'm going to do that for each side. So I'm going to have about 4 channels in total. So you guys, I totally did make a mistake when I was sewing this. I was supposed to hem the top first before making the channeling, but I, made a little mistake. So now I'm hemming my top now. So you definitely want to make sure that you hem your top first, but if you don't, it's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to stitch it down. I'm using a zigzag stitch and I'm just hemming my top by just folding it inwards into the wrong side of my fabric. I'm folding it in once at 0.5 inches at half an inch seam allowance, and I'm just stitching it down using a zigzag stitch. It's super neat. I love this fabric. I think I forgot to mention what fabric I'm using. I'm actually using a cotton knit fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch until I get to the original, to where I started my stitching. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to undo those stitches that are on my channeling. So I'm just undoing the stitches, and what I want to do is after this I'm just going to take my seam ripper and just make a hole there on the channeling that I can fit my straps into. Now what you can do is you can first hem your piece, first hem your top, then stitch the side seams, then stitch the channeling. But if you're like me, you make that mistake, just go ahead and just make a hole. You can just always cut a hole open. It's not going to be a big deal, especially when you cut it from the inside. Anyway, I'm moving forward and I'm just doing my straps quickly. I'm just stitching them using a straight stitch. So here are my straps. What I'm going to do is I did take them to my serger and serge them. So what I want to do is I'm just going to turn these pieces inside out. When I've turned them inside out, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them through the channeling that I have stitched. So I'm just tying the ends of my straps. Just, you don't need to do this part, but I'm just tying them. There's no specific reason why I'm tying them into knots at the end. I'm just tying them into knots at the end. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab my loop turner and I'm going to put it in, and I made a hole. Remember I told you about having to cut that hole with your seam ripper? So what I'm doing is put my loop hole from the armhole and getting it down to the hemline, and then I'm just going to hook my strap onto there and get it all the way up and then down, and then repeat the same process. Then when I'm done with this process, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and I'm just going to stitch it down to keep those straps in place, those drawstrings in place. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just stitch those straps in place because I don't want them to move as I continue with my project. So now I'm gonna set that piece aside and I'm just gonna jump to my sleeves. Oh, I almost said armholes. Sleeves. So what I'm doing with my sleeves, I'm just going to fold them right sides together and I'm going to stitch at the side seam. When you are doing this, please make sure that you have your front, your bodice piece with you, the top with you, to make sure that as you are stitching the sleeves, when you turn your sleeves inside out and you try fit them into the armholes, make sure that the back notch is matching with the back notches of each piece. That is very important. So when I'm done with my sleeves, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my sleeve inside out, right? Then I'm going to match it with the side knot, the side seam. The side seam matches with the side seam. The center notch will match up with that shoulder seam. And then the back seam, which is the double notches, needs to match up with the double notches on your top. And then the front notch, which is one notch, should match up with the front. So just to recap, the side seam of the sleeve will match up with the side seam of your top. Then the center notch will match up with the shoulder notch of your top. The double notches are going to match up with the back, and the one notch is going to match up with the front. So go ahead and just stitch that in place, and then I am going to take it to my serger. That's because I just wanted something that looks super neat. Remember, you don't have to do this if you don't have a serger. Just stitch and then cut off the excess and the excess seam allowance, and you will be fine. So go ahead and stitch. So with my overlocker, my serger, I'm using a 4-thread overlocker, and I'm using all of the threads, which makes it have like this really nice finish. Usually I use 3 threads, but yeah, for this occasion I wanted to use the entire all the 4 threads. So I'm doing the same thing to the other sleeve, the other armhole. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking my loop turner and I'm putting it under those threads, those chains, and then I'm pulling the other chains into that chain. So now I'm taking the neck band and I'm putting the two short sides together, and I'm just going to complete a straight stitch over there. Honestly, you do not need, at this point, you do not need to take this to the serger, but I did because I was being a little bit extra. But because we're still gonna fold it, nobody is going to see the inside of that neckband at no point, so it will be perfectly fine at this point. So, but then I did obviously serge it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that neckband and I'm going to fold it like that, right? Then I'm going to just put it, while the neckband is on the side, I'm going to fold it in half like that, and I'm just going to make a notch, right? That notch is going to represent the center front of my neckband. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to make another notch on my sewing. I'm going to put the shoulders of my top together, and I just make a notch in the center to find the center of my back and find the center of my front. I do not do it in quarters, I just do it in halves, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the okay guys, so I'm going to take that seam that I stitched on the arm, on the neckband, that is going to act as that is going to act as what needs to match up with my center back, and then the other notch that I made is going to be my center front. Oh my goodness, woo, that was a bit complicated to say, but you guys know what I'm saying. So that seam on the neckband, that is going to match up with the center back of my sewing pattern, of my top. Goodness gracious, I'm trying to fix it, but it is not getting fixed. But anyway, as you can see there, that seam is lining up with the center back. Yes. Anyway, I'm so sorry for that, guys. So I'm just going on to my serger and I'm just like reinforcing my neckband with my serger. Love it. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab my loop turner and do the same thing to get my chains neatly tucked and not so unneat. Anyway, I'm so sorry for being stuck on this frame. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my neck hole, right? And obviously I'm gonna have that excess seam allowance just hanging. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna take it. I'm going to take it right like that, and then I'm going to put it in my sewing machine, and then I'm going to stitch close to the edge. I'm just top stitching basically my neckline down, and I'm using a straight stitch to do this. and that is what it's going to look like. So I'm going to give you guys an up close look to exactly what it looks like. So basically you just top stitch. Let's wait for the focus to go in. There we go. You just top stitch that. It looks so cute and just like so neat. I absolutely love it. You can press it down with an iron to just get that tension off. Then what I'm doing is I'm folding in this is my wrist now. To finish the wrist, you're just going to fold it inwards by half an inch, and then you're just going to use a zigzag stitch to just stitch it down, and you will be done with this pattern. You're done after this part. We're done. You can wear it, you can rock it, you're gonna look so amazing in it. And yeah, this was actually like really easy to make. Anyway, continue to watch, like, comment and subscribe, because we're gonna be having a lot of these long sleeve sewing patterns coming out this week.